Well, good evening, everybody. Slight hiccup with the streaming, but hopefully we're back in business. Now, let's hope so. If somebody could message me if it's not working properly, that would be good. And I do hope it's all tickety-boo. Let's just, oh, looks like it. Excellent. Be nice to see Philip. Right, no problem. I can do that. Mike. Here we are. This is me. So, still on some Adventy type hymns this evening. Of the Father's love begotten. It just worries me that I might have played this already, but let me just turn this off over here because this is beeping away. Notifying. Of the Father's love begotten is one of my favourite Advent hymns. Lovely, lovely tune. And I'm going to start out with that. 181 in Singing the Faith, but it's available in Hymns and Psalms, and I think the Methodist hymn book, if my memory serves me correctly. So, here we go. great hymn that is. Lovely, lovely, strong tune. A hymn we had from this morning, Sing We the King Who Is Coming to Reign. Do you know, I think I might have played this before as well. Oh dear. Well, anyway, we don't get to sing it that often. Perhaps I'm confusing it because I did play it at chapel this morning. Sing We the King Who Is Coming to Reign. Glory to Jesus, the Lamb that was slain. It's a jolly old tune, and called the Glory Song. Sing We the King. So some nice nice sort of almost a rollicking kind of tune, that one, isn't it? Sing We the King Who's Coming to Reign. Something to be joyful about. Next one's rather different in that the Angel Gabriel is quite different in nature and in character. So I'm going to let's do that, and oh, we don't want that, we want that. We want that. Excuse me while I talk to myself. The Angel Gabriel from heaven came. Wings are drifted snow, his eyes as flame. The second verse, this week there was some questions being posed on Facebook about the second verse. For known a blessed mother thou shalt be. And some disagreement or different opinions whether it should be foreknown or foreknow. I suppose it can be either, but I grew up with foreknown. Whatever, I suppose. Anyway, just to let you know, I'll be playing foreknown. You can sing foreknown or foreknow, but I shall be playing foreknown a blessing. lovely setting, a Basque carol from, I suppose, from the Basque countries, somewhere near Spain, isn't it, I think. Sabine Baring Gould who wrote the words. Rather lovely, to say the least. I was just thinking that online on YouTube now this evening is the Air Ambulance concert, which is taking place, which we recorded at Truro Methodist last Thursday. When I say we recorded it, I played a hymn. St Denis brass band, very fine band, and we did a concert, or did some recordings there with some hymns for the Air Ambulance. It was meant to be a live event, but in the end Air Ambulance decided to, being a sort of medical charity with COVID, thought it the best idea not to have an audience. So we didn't have an audience. They recorded things, and I joined in and played Lingham. So that was the first sort of casualty of the concert, so it was going on at TMC. Last night we had the Cornwall Symphony Chorus at Truro Methodist, and we had some casualties. Unfortunately, a couple of people fell down. I think 3 people fell on the stairs going up to the gallery. Somebody tripped and caused some other people a bit of a domino effect, I gather. And sadly, one of the people was Shirley Simmons, who some time ago I said to you that Shirley and Peter Simmons used to take my brother and myself across to school, Truro School. David, their youngest son, went, or their youngest son, they've only got one son, David and Jane, who's younger, and David, we used to go to Truro School together, and we used to share the transport getting across. Unfortunately, Shirley got caught up in this and sadly broke her wrist. I was planning to catch up with them, because I've not seen them since I suppose we moved back to 12 Eds back in the 70s, and a chance to catch up. And I couldn't spot them in the audience, but I did spot Peter, and then I discovered later that Shirley got caught up in this and sadly broke her wrist. Not what you want to do just before Christmas, is it really? So in contact with her daughter Jane, and as you can imagine, breaking your wrist, not much fun, and holding things up and the shock of it all happening, the rest of it. But I did say, well, if Shirley's got a favourite hymn, I would play it this evening. And she suggested 700 from the Methodist hymn book, and I thought, what a lovely choice of hymn. It's got a great tune, and it's ages since I played it, but it's come back quite fresh. The words, I seem to think I might have played this tune to something else, but it's a great tune. If you don't know it, then of course it's not been included in any of the new hymn books, but it does all those sorts of things. So our 3 verses: who in the Lord confide and feel his sprinkled blood. And wonderful words here. In storms and hurricanes abide, firm as the mount of God. Something to cling on to when everything else around you is not doing so well. So we do feel for you, Shirley, and I hope that your recovery doesn't take too long, and that no doubt you're being well cared for across there at Wheel Rose. So I'm playing this hymn for Shirley, who I still haven't caught up with after all those years. I was thinking there'll be a chance to catch up and say hello, and it still hasn't happened. Right, on with the hymn. cracking good tune that is. I can see why Shirley likes that tune. Beauty. Beauty. Does all the right kind of things, and saves the high notes, or the repeated high notes, and towards the end has wonderful words. The men of heart sincere continue to defend and do them good and save them here and love them to the end. Lovely. Excellent. So along with Shirley last evening, Shirley wasn't the only casualty. Somebody else unfortunately has ended up in hospital with a broken hip, I think. Well, I don't think that's what's been related to me, and somebody else as well. So it was a slightly chaotic sort of start to the concert. Although it wasn't chaotic from point of view from where I was playing the organ beforehand, because all of a sudden a lot of people were coming past the organ concert. I thought, this is a bit strange. I'm sure they haven't come to get this close to me, but they had to take a different entrance to the balcony because the stairs couldn't be used. Anyway, so think of those people. So remember Shirley and those people, of course, the others that got injured, and the people surrounding them, because it was a shock for family and friends. Not what you want. And then we turned up at church, or before we got to church this morning, we discovered that our minister Mark Dan Wilson was poorly. He must be poorly because his wife said he didn't argue when she said, I think you're not going to do anything today. So he didn't argue with that. So he must be poorly, bless him. So remember Mark in your prayers. He I think it's probably possibly a reaction to the COVID booster. I don't know. He had that yesterday, and he put up in his Facebook status, coffee and COVID booster. I wonder which will kick in first. So I don't know, but anyway, so rest up and get well, Mark. It's a busy time coming up now. I think last week I asked you to remember Peter Johns, good friend of mine, who lived here in this house, who was going into hospital for a procedure. That's all been done and all went smoothly, and just a period of recovery. I've spoken to Peter, and he's doing well, so that's good. And one other person to ask you to remember in your prayers, my uncle David Brown, who has been at TMC as part of the choir along with Daphne, his wife, until they went to Harrogate, is going into hospital on Wednesday for a procedure. So remember him in your prayers. I shall catch up with him a bit later on, and he'll do his COVID tests tomorrow, and of course needs to isolate. So I shall catch up later. 264 from Methodist hymn book. I can't remember why Methodist hymn book was open, and I seem to think the new arrangement in the book, I'm not entirely sure I like it. So let's go with this now. Lo, he comes with clouds descending. Advent. The versions, the arrangements of the tune seems to have changed from version to version. I'd forgotten that version. I like the setting in hymns and psalms, I think, the best. However, there we go. We come to our last hymn for this evening, 188. I've been singing the faith. There's a light upon the mountains. We had the Reverend Dr. John Johnson stood in for Mark Dunn Wilson this morning. We had a communion service at TMC, and John is one of our supernumerary ministers. I think if you're a minister, you never really sort of get to retire, do you? He was chaplain at Truro School, and then back into circuit, I think, and is now one of our supernumeraries. That means a minister who is supposedly retired but continues to be available to take services and communion. And he said that this is one of his favourite hymns, and it's also one of mine. There's a light upon the mountains, the day is at the spring. And I'm sure I've said before, it's one of those hymns which have been used at family funerals over the years. And it's a great favourite. John introduces him by thinking of verse 3. He's breaking down the barriers, he is casting up the way, he is calling for his angels to build up the gates of day. But his angels here are human, not the shining hosts above, for the drumbeats of his army are the heartbeats of our love. So there we are, some hymns for Advent, lots to give thanks for. So just to remind you of those people that have been in our thoughts, if you like. Peter Johns, who's safely through a procedure. Pray for Mark, who hopefully will be restored to full health and strength before too much longer, and Shirley. And let's hope that the wrist mends quickly. And for the lady who's broken her hip as well. And then for my Uncle David, this week, going in for a procedure. So if you remember them in your prayers, and that would be great. So a little trumpet voluntary to finish. Actually, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use the Hereford tuba. So lots of events and things coming up. If you check on our church website, then you can find out what's going on across. Yes, a fortnight tonight will be our church carol service, the 19th. So I won't be doing any hymns from here. If everything goes according to plan, then we will do as we've done in other years, and with orchestra and choir and the rest of it. But if COVID gets in the way, then of course plans will have to change. Anyway, so that's a fortnight tonight. So some merits next week then. Perhaps a couple of Nicholas carols as well. I'm not entirely sure if they're in copyright, but we'll sort something. Okay, trumpet voluntary, played on the tuba of Hereford. Good night, sleep well, take care. God bless.